Recording. All right. Hey, welcome everybody. So glad to have you as part of our focus on business development, but in particular, the financial freedom part of this. It was really interesting doing a survey with folks who are part of 52 Weeks of Greatness, a virtual coaching program that I have, and we started it in January. About 3/4 of the way through, I said to folks, so knowing what you know now that you signed up for and what you've been getting from it, what seems to be the most important things? What were the most important drivers? And what have become the most important things for you in terms of your progression? And it's so amazing that number 2 absolutely clearly was financial freedom, which is part of why this became the second video in a 2-part series, a webinar, because I thought, well, I don't talk about that hardly at all in this program, and I know that this is a conversation that I have with a lot of my colleagues in the field, and it's something that we all want. So this was originally my way of being able to give back to my community of rock stars who are in 52 Weeks of Greatness, whether they can be on the line or they watch it later. But also I thought, you know what? What's the harm in opening it up to a broader audience, which is so awesome that you guys are on the line, and we may have more folks join us too. So, I think that there's probably some pretty common reasons why this is important to us. I mean, the number one thing is we're really juggling so many things. And it feels like, are we even able to put this into the equation? I saw an interesting Facebook chatter happening around, should we be even aiming for 6 figures? Like it's some kind of dirty word, or that it's unattainable. And I think it's because we feel like we're already walking on this super thin tightrope. How are we possibly going to be able to have a more ambitious goal, or to be able to try to pay off our mortgage and get debt free even earlier? And I guess it's an opportunity for us to look at that mindset and to really see, is it fear that's driving that question? Can we really have it all? Can we possibly fit this in? Or is it just a completely different reality that we often aren't thinking of? And I would like to suggest the latter, because we've been able to get debt-free and build a successful business by not making it to be a primary focus. It's actually all the other things that we focused on in our life and getting really clear on that helped us. So, today we're talking about trying to have really fewer money worries, prioritizing what's most important. And that was the first webinar. So if you didn't catch it, it's on YouTube. You're welcome to watch it. And then, of course, for those of you who either are in your own business, of which I think is all of you who are on the line, or even if you're thinking about having a business or building it in an even bigger way, I'm going to share with you some of the things that have worked well in mine. So it's a bit of a buffet menu, a whole bunch of things, and I know you're going to get some value. And I want to just make a disclaimer that this is my own experience. I'm not a financial planner. The very first person I hired when I started my business, before I even made a penny, was a bookkeeper. I mean, what was she going to keep books on? I didn't make any money yet. But I'm just not a money person. So how ironic it is that we're having a conversation about financial freedom. Well, I'm going to share with you some of the things that actually I think being averse to that whole intricacies of money has helped, because it's been about the big picture of things as opposed to getting down in the weeds. So everyone knows I'm not giving financial planning advice. I'm not legally allowed to do so, nor would I try to do that for other people. What I'm sharing with you is the fact that we were leading a checklist life. So 3 years ago at this exact time, I was packing up our house because we had sold our house, we had sold our cottage. We were about ready to leave our community, the only community my children had ever known, to be able to completely recalibrate and rebuild our life. And part of why we wanted to get rid of the extra property and all the things that we thought we needed and wanted as a family was because my son's mental health was really declining. And all of a sudden, those things didn't become important. Now, we weren't trying to have all of those things to try to have things. We thought we were making the right choices, having a second property so that we had a therapeutic environment, because our jobs were so busy, particularly mine. It gave me a chance to get off the grid, but then I was there and then I just had more things to be able to get back on the grid. So it just was not working. And as evidenced by the fact that we thought that we put more things in place, things that cost a lot of money, and it still wasn't helping. If anything, we were feeling completely stuck in that reality. So that was our reality 4 years ago, is we were constantly panicky about paying the bills, we were living paycheck to paycheck. And yet on paper, it seemed like we were pretty successful, and we weren't feeling that way at all. Because every month it felt like there wasn't enough money. It felt like we were burning through money, and we had no idea what we were spending it on. And I can remember being in grad school when we bought our first house, and I don't know what possessed us to buy a house while we were starting grad school, but we did. I can remember writing every single purchase down, the non-detail oriented person, writing every single purchase down, just so I knew exactly where our money was going. We had this really tight budget. We had completely lost sight of all of that. And so you've probably been in that situation before. At the end of the month, you think, how is it possible that I can't pay my credit card bill this month, or I have to wait till our next paycheck? We make enough money. How is that possible? So, we felt like we were burning through money. And frankly, our children were kind of like, they felt miserable. They felt kind of cheated sometimes, because we were so focused on having to make the money to be able to take care of them that we kind of lost sight of the fact that this was all for them anyway. So I guess my question to all of you is, if not now, when? That could potentially be a bill collector calling right now, but it's not, because we're debt free. So if not now, when? And really, this is my call to action. And obviously, you're in action if you're in this webinar live, or if you're watching it after. You're in that it has to be now. And the now attitude is about, it absolutely can happen. I mean, it happened for us by making just a few choices. And then we're able to stay in that money-free worry state because we continue to stick with what was working. And April, who's on the line, who's a solution-focused practitioner, you will totally get and love the fact that's a solution-focused philosophy, isn't it? That if you focus on what's working and continue to do more of it, you'll continue to have more success. And I have to tell you, this whole vision of this new life happened, Bridge, you'll like this, on a yoga mat. I was supposed to be mindful and not thinking about anything. And typical Sarah, I was thinking of a million things, but I had this flash of insight come into my mind. And I completely pictured a different life. We were living in the country, on the water. I could look out this big barn that I was in, and I could see this really big expansive field, and this was our space. And we had a house on the same property. And it felt so real. I felt so electric. I wanted to jump right off my yoga mat and go home and tell my husband. And probably it's just as well that I didn't tell him that moment, because I did need the whole yoga class, being unable to balance in any pose, of course, because my mind was going. Because by the time I got home, I was a little bit calmer, and I said, but the reality is, honey, we're going to have to move. We're going to have to completely reinvent ourselves. I think that this is our way of being able to have fewer debts and also be able to prioritize our family better, is if we were living a completely different life. And frankly, I think it's going to take me leaving my job and us selling almost everything we have to be able to do it. And that very day, we started looking at properties. And can I tell you something? We went and we looked at a place that I remember facilitating a session in, and we went and knocked on the door. Yeah, unsolicited people asking to buy your house. I would not recommend that to anybody, because it's very good we live in Canada and nobody had a shotgun, because I'm telling you, they reacted very, very strongly to us not being on the property as soon as they found out that I was interested in reinventing ourselves with their house that they were currently very happily still living in. So anyway, we found a great place, and that's where we're living now. But the point is, these bursts of insight can happen in the least expected places. And why I'm spending so much time on sharing this story with you is because we often discredit those intuitive hits as being these wise, incredible sources of internal wisdom. And you may or may not be an intuitive decision maker. I am. That may not be your thing. So if you are not an intuitive decision maker, if you're a bit more logical, do your pros, cons list, whatever works for you. But don't ignore it, because if I discredited the fact that I just have this vision and that could create a completely different life, we would still not be living the right life for us as a family. And the consequences to my son could have been very drastic. So this is more than just about financial freedom. This is about freedom and choice in general. And again, that's why I'm talking about this as opposed to perhaps a financial planner. And here's what we all want, right? We want to have less stress. Dear stress, let us break up. And what's one of the biggest worries that keeps people up at night is worries about money. Focusing on the here and now, we all want to be more present. And when we're not so worried about paying the bills or getting our next client, we don't feel quite so paralyzed by not having choice. And then finally, we want to focus on the things that we love and the people that we love. And again, the less encumbered we are by financial worries, the more likely that's able to happen. So fast forward a couple of years, this is our family in front of that barn that my husband's currently renovating. It's going to take a few years to do. But it's been an interesting journey of being able to really notice when we would fall into some of the old habits of extending ourselves beyond our means and having to pull back and go, no. If we make that choice, then we're not going to be able to have this financial freedom. Perfect example. We are between our two vehicles, we have over 500,000 kilometers on our two vehicles, right? We really make choices about what to invest in. And it's our kids' activities, education, it's my business, it's our home, our property, and almost all the other choices. Now, it's not to say that we're not having fun. We're doing bucket list trips and really cool stuff. And at the same time, it's all choice, right? So this is the number one thing that drives us in our financial decision making is ultimately how are we going to be worry free, or how are we going to have experiences that enrich our family's life? The car experience isn't going to enrich it. The bucket list trip will. Hence, we keep driving old cars, but we've been to some pretty cool places. So ultimately, what I'm challenging us all to do is to think about how you think about money, to think about how you think about in your own business, how you show up in your life as it relates to money. And what are some of the thoughts that you have? So one of the thoughts that I have that I've learned through working with my business coach is that I feel like I need to work hard or else I don't deserve it. So what are some of the things, pay attention to that come into your head? Because if I believe everything I have to do, I have to work really, really hard for, I'm probably not going to have a lot of time for my family, and I'm probably not going to bring in the revenue that I am able to bring in. So there have been whole changes to my business model as a result of having to address some of the thoughts. And as a result, it's changed our world. So, I want to ask you to picture yourself a year from today, and you don't have to tell us out loud, but I do want you to just truly, honestly think, where will you be a year from now when you have less of a financial worry, and or if your motivation for being on this call today is around developing that 6 or more or 7 or 8 figure business? What will be different? Lock that image in your mind. Kind of like when I was on my yoga mat and I had that vision. Make it so crystal clear. Who will you be telling something's different? Will you have something on your vision board? I always have my vision boards up because they're constantly a source of inspiration for me. What is that different thing that's going to be? And write it down. I think, Bridget, you're a big journaler. Same with April. You're a technology journaler, I know. Write that thing down. Picture it in your mind, whatever you need to do. What is that thing that's going to be different? And I'm going to invite you, if you want to have a brief conversation with me at some point over the next week, to talk with me about that different vision. And if I could give you any feedback or some support, a little bit of coaching advice on the side to help you with that vision, then please let me know. I'll give you my contact information at the end if you don't already have it. All right. So we've all got that picture in our mind. All right. So what best depicts your vision of money right now? So is it you're really goals oriented, you're super focused, or you're more like, I'm working so hard, I'm falling asleep because I can't get ahead of things? Are you really zen about it? It's just like, hey, whatever. Or is it, I have so many things on my mind, so many different places I need to spend my time, I can't even focus. What is your relationship to money right now? And how do you want that to change? How does it not fit your current relationship to money? How does it not fit with where you want to be in that vision in a year from now? So again, if you have your journal out, or if you're doing that visualization, what image do you have and what do you want it to be? So if your image is, let's say it's the second one and you're asleep because you're working so much, what is it going to be? And Some here chatting with me here. I'm a 4 right now. Yeah. Okay. So cool. So, thank you, April, for sharing that. So, you're at that 4 point where it's like so many things, right? The list, there are so many different things that are distracting you. So absolutely, what's going to be different? Picturing yourself perhaps with levity, with freedom. What do you like? Picture yourself actually pulling a Post-it note off, crumpling it up and throwing it out, and a conversation with somebody, or thinking yourself what that's like when it's different. Really paint that picture in your mind. Very first tip that I have to share with you, and again, these are all things that I had to do. Number 1 is know how much you absolutely need to make. It's amazing how many of us, because we may not be living hand to mouth, we don't know actually how much we absolutely need to be able to pay the bills, or our financial situations have gotten so out of control. It's like please don't even think about it, right? But what do you actually need to make? This is the very first thing I did. Well, perhaps even before I hired that bookkeeper, is I looked at what do we need to make and what's my portion that I need to contribute to our household. And it was the first time in a number of years, I'm embarrassed to admit, that I've actually put down on paper how much we have outgoing. And if we don't know that number, what's the number 1 risk? That we can't continue to work towards that number. We can't continue to make sure that we bring in that revenue. Knowing how much you need to make also gives you choices. Because from a business standpoint, if you decide you don't want to work with that particular client, if you've made what you need to make, you can say, you know what, I don't think we're a good fit. You don't have to just keep taking business just because you feel like that's what you need to do to make the bills. And similarly, if you know what you absolutely need to make, it gives you freedom, because you're able to decide, I actually want to go on a vacation, or I want to invest in my business. I want to hire a coach. I want to purchase some furniture, because you've made your numbers. So that's really important. Know what you need to make. Do you know, honestly, you don't have to tell me, but do you know exactly the number that you absolutely need to make in your business? If you don't, that is officially homework piece number 1, or if you haven't done it in a while, it might be a good idea to update it. What's the second thing we need to do here? My computer's asleep at the switch. Number 2, prioritize ditching the debt and staying that way. So the very first thing is, where is all your debt? And again, it's scary how many Canadians don't actually know where they owe their money. And by the way, if you haven't done a credit check in a long time, I would highly recommend you do it. When we were renovating the barn, we had to decide how quickly we wanted to do it. And we were considering doing it all over one summer, which meant we would have to borrow a little bit of money. Because right now we're mortgage free, but we might have had to go and get a bit of debt. Well, we couldn't get anything because we had somebody who had lent us some money to do a bridge financing for the house that we're living in, and they never closed the file. And there was a balance of about, I don't know, I think it was originally $2 that continued to accumulate interest. They wrote it off as a bad debt, and all of a sudden we have a terrible credit score for probably like $30 or some ridiculous thing. So that's just a side tip that I hadn't even planned to talk about, but a sad, unfortunate lesson learned is know your credit score. So Credit Karma, and there's various places out there that you can do that. But so if you've got some debt, where is your debt? And prioritize ditching it. You can work with, if you've got a lot, you can work with credit counselors and people who help with prioritizing that. You could also do something like what we did, is we got rid of something that was draining us, and that was our second property. Other people, they get rid of a lease of a car, or they go down to one vehicle. They maybe put off going on vacation. Maybe normally they go on vacation, they put it off, but prioritize getting rid of the debt. Because I'm telling you, as soon as you're debt free, you have so much choice. Like your sleep is so much better. I can't even tell you. Number 2, get with your goals. So when you're prioritizing ditching the debt, what are some of your goals? So are you trying to get rid of the debt within 5 years? Is it 10 years? Is it 6 months? What is your plan? And then you work towards that. So if you can go back, potentially refinance your mortgage, or you can be socking money away the next time your mortgage, as your annual anniversary comes up, you could put a big chunk towards your mortgage. That's your, whatever your goals are in that. And if you want to know more about goals, the module that we just did, the webinar, is up on YouTube, and you're welcome to watch it because all of this applies. And then finally, make paying yourself first a priority. Because oftentimes we think we need to sort of pay all the other places. But when you're able to pay off your debt, prioritize that before you prioritize other things, it's incredible how you're able to stay out of debt and you're able to start chipping away at it as opposed to other things layer on top. Perfect example of this is I had somebody who was over a couple of days ago and was saying, I have to replace a piece of equipment in my house. Like it was a water tank. It's like, how am I going to possibly be able to do that? Because, we're spending all the money that we bring in. So that's maybe one of your goals, is to be able to have a little cushion. If you don't currently have that, I know it seems sort of just so obvious to say, and yet if that's not been part of your goals, you may wish to build that in as one of them, and therefore prioritize putting money into that rainy day fund above something else that maybe is where you're putting your money. And I'll tell you, we negotiate with our kids every year. So my son really wants to do ski club this year. Between the ski club, the insurance, the rentals, we've said to them, okay guys, guess what, kids, we're not going on any vacations this year, because between my daughter's gymnastics and all of his activities, he's doing rowing and a whole bunch of other things, it's all adding up. So that is the equivalent of what we would normally spend on a small, short family vacation in the wintertime. Now we'll probably do something in the summer, but it's always a matter of negotiation. So, if you have kids, if you have, with your spouse, I would really strongly suggest have those conversations together. I'm not suggesting it's those conversations about this costs so much money, therefore we can't. I'm not saying like have a limiting belief sort of conversation, a limiting mindset. However, having these conversations with people who can help you solve it and stay that way is really empowering for them. And it's kind of cool when kids can get involved in some of those things that normally grown-ups are responsible for. All right, money tip number 3 is that my computer really likes to take some time to wake up. All right, picture your retirement day. So I've got 2 exercises, and Bridge, you've probably done this with your clients as a coach. You can write your retirement day speech. You can visualize yourself in retirement, however you want to put yourself in that frame of mind. And you have achieved everything you wanted. Financially, you're the title, you've built if you've got your own business, either you're building it or you've been in business for yourself, you've built it to exactly what you wanted it to be. Talk about that. Share it with your best friend, your spouse, your business partner, in a journal if you want to do it to yourself. Record it into an app. Transcribe it if you want. But make it very real. Put yourself in the shoes of yourself in your retirement day. And that may be when you're 90. It could be when you're 50. It's going to vary for all of us. But put yourself on retirement day. And I'll tell you, I've done this so many times. And it's fascinating how my priorities change, shift, and adjust every time I put myself there. Because it's all about the legacy you want to leave, the how big you want your business to be, how big you want to play, how you want to scale back. All of these things go into having that vision of retirement, because often what we do is we focus on what's going on in our life right now. In fact, some of the tips I've already given you are all about the present moment, isn't it? Whereas this allows you to get future focused. And in a solution focused world, right, April? Being solution focused is really essential. So when we put ourselves in the future, then we can begin to reverse engineer what the solution is going to look like in our life. And we may be really surprised that we prioritize certain things by our retirement because they may or may not be things we're focusing on right now. For example, if you want to be able to donate money to charity, what do you need to be making now to pay yourself first to be able to do that once you retire? And make it happen. Even if it's a tiny, tiny step towards that goal, I would start making it happen. Okay, let me just pause there. Feel free to chat me if you just put the word question or comment, if you have a question or comment, before I move on to the second half of our webinar, talking all about key strategies that I used to be able to stay debt-free and to build a six-figure business in 2 years. And also pull back to ask questions in a couple of minutes too. But anytime, feel free to put in the chat and I'll unmute you, or you can just type in your question. All right, business tip number 1, of course, have a plan. So I'll admit that I started out just being willing to do anything for anyone, and I shouldn't say anything, any professional, thing that I'm trained in. So I'm mediation, conflict resolution, team building, strategic planning, training. I mean, just about anything that I've ever done. Yes, I will do it. Whether I liked it, whether it made much money, it didn't matter. I just offered it to everybody. And so these were the three main buckets. And I have to tell you, I wasn't charging enough. I didn't enjoy half the projects that I was working on. I often liked the people I was working with because these were people that I had known, for the most part, people that I had known through my, my business and my professional world up to that point. And at the same time, I realized at the end of that year, oh my gosh, the first year, granted it wasn't a full first year, but still my expenses were as much as my incoming. Yeah, that doesn't line up with my tip number 1, which is to know what you need to contribute to your household. I wasn't contributing what I needed to contribute to our household. So I needed to make changes really quickly. So let me share with you how I built out my business and also began to be able to shift to do the things that I really was able to start being in true service to people. Because if you're doing things you're not passionate about, how much service are we actually providing people? So this is where the plan comes in, because this is really about strategic alignment. Let me just do a quick check-in with our chat folks. Okay, April has a question. Okay, so April, do you mind if I unmute you? April, is it okay? Do you want to ask the question or make the statement? Is that okay verbally to do it?
Sure. Can you hear me?
We can.
Can you hear me? Okay. I was just saying that your number 2 tip, if just to backtrack a tiny bit, was amazing, because I did the debt counseling. I did a credit counseling a few months ago, and I hadn't realized how I hadn't looked at my credit and how I hadn't looked at the process of where it was, and then looked at all different credit reporting agencies. And now that I have a plan and a strategy from that counseling, I feel like a little bit of Wonder Woman. Like, yeah. I know exactly what I'm doing. So I nodding my head with your number 2 tip. It was really good. Good. So I'm with you there.
I'm so glad that you did that, and thank you for sharing that, by the way. We think that we have control of our money, right? We get these documents in the mail. We can go into our account even from our device, so we kind of have this artificial sense of being in control about our finances. And yet the financial industry really doesn't want us. Like, let's all be real here, right? Do they really want us to be in control of our finances? Are they going to be able to give us that extra credit card? Are they going to be able to have us have that backup, credit, what do they call that? Lines of credit. They want to make it so easy and accessible for us to access money. And then we forget about all those places in which we have spots where we can access our money. Or we've accessed so many of them that, it can get out of control really quickly. And we may not even realize it's out of control. So thank you so much, April, for sharing that. I think we probably all can relate to your experience in your story. So from a business building standpoint, creating a plan and having strategic alignment is really essential. And one of the most important pieces of feedback that I got from my speaking community folks, which I became a part of, and it wasn't even in the original plan, was that you need to know what your area of expertise is. People buy from experts as opposed to generalists generally. So if people will buy from generalists, but they'll pay more money and they will see it as a better investment. And frankly, honestly, I do a way better job as an expert because then I focus on knowing a lot about a very small slice of the world as opposed to try to stay on top of all kinds of things. And also from an efficiency standpoint, I can have more clients. I can be serving more people because I'm not trying to create new every time I create a presentation, it's not brand new. Every time I do a project, it's not starting from scratch. So it's actually better service to have greater strategic alignment. Furthermore, people know how to refer you because they're able to say, oh, well, you know what April does, you know what Bridge does. So, people have to be able to speak about us. And that's what we mean by a brand. A brand is how people describe you when you're not present, or how they describe what you can do for people. Particularly, here's a really big thing: what problems you solve for people. People are way more motivated by solving a pain point than realizing a potential or achieving the next thing. Overall, some of you may be the exception to that rule, but generally that's the way it goes. So has your business created a plan? Have you created a plan for your business that solves big issues, and you are the best person to be able to solve that? And then here's how we build it out from a planning standpoint too, is that there is some strategic alignment of all of the things that we do. So for me, I still kept the coaching and the training and the consulting. However, it's now very focused. I mean, the coaching is a little different than the training consulting. For me, the coaching is still, it ranges from professional coaching through to business coaching. But it tends to be about alignment with my core brand around recognition, as I'm recognizing my client's potential, holding that belief for them. So it's not misaligned, it's just not quite as streamlined. The training and the consulting, as well as the virtual programs, the keynotes, and the books that I write, it's all around recognition. And specifically the brand Frog, forever recognize others' greatness. And so now I just spoke with somebody today, somebody that I had met once. She had heard a 12-minute TED type talk that I delivered. She's recommended me to a multinational, I don't know which one, because they're looking at needing to beef up their recognition strategy. So I hardly know this person, but she's able to say to somebody, there's this recognition expert. So even though I've never worked for her, she's only heard a brief talk, she's able to get a sense of what I can potentially do for a client who needs something. So that would be one of the things that I would challenge all of you who have a business, or you're building a business, or you're about to build a business, is what are the different services and products you could offer? What products and services do you currently offer? How are they already aligned? And how can you align them even better? Because if people know exactly who you are and what you do and how you solve their problems, they not only can purchase from you, buy from you, they can refer people to be able to purchase and buy from you. And one of your great questions, Bridge, that you had asked me earlier was around, like, how do you, I believe this is what you had asked, around connecting with people early enough, right? And them being able to get people at the right timing. Is that right? Just nod your head if that's right. Did I get your question? Okay. Do you want to ask is this a good time to bring your question forward, or in a bit?
I don't know. It could be. Maybe I'll just phrase it, and then you can let me know if it's
okay, perfect.
Later on. Or
yeah.
So the pieces that I'm really interested in right now are getting traction with the right audience. So I'm kind of at a stage where I'm getting lots of great feedback and lots of kind of tire kicking and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And a few people really excited to connect and do the work. But some of the feedback I've had from my business mentors has been, I just think you're not quite getting in front of the right people. Mm. So there's that aspect of finding your peeps, basically.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so this would be, notice I didn't put a thing in here that says networking. I mean, marketing and networking and all that other stuff, those are important parts of business development too. However, those generally don't make people money. And this is a call about money. So one of the things that I would say consider is, are there things that you could do from a training, from a speaking, even if it's small groups? Hosting your own events is really challenging to fill a room and to make any money there. Although if you're looking for exposure, then that's a great opportunity. However, are there ways in which you can get in front of audiences that already exist, that are your target market, that you might be able to, gain a bit of traction and test it out, right? At what point do you need to get out in front of them to make the right buying decision? Like, do people hire you at the beginning of the year because it's New Year's resolution sort of mindset? Do they hire from you when it's about to be the summer because they're going to have more time? Like, there's some things that you'll begin to notice, and you can start to line up some of those services that you offer, whether it's doing a free event to get exposure to people have exposure to you, whether it's speaking at other people's events, whether it's products and services. I'm going to talk a little bit about serving people, in which I think is also related to your question. But, you know, I'll have to tell you that each one of these lanes here, these I call them revenue streams, all of them lead to each other. So I'll go and I'll do a speaking event, and somebody will hire me from coaching, even though they have never coached with me, but because I really connect with her up on the stage, I'll hire her for that. Or training, I'll do training, and then they'll hire me to do speaking at a different event. Somebody will buy my book and they'll say, this is so practical, will you come and do training in my organization? So all of these things and you may not have these things in your business, but my point is, what are all the different things that you do? Have a diversified revenue stream model, but it's connected by your core brand, about who you are and how people know you. Does that make sense, folks? Yeah? Like, let me know if you want me to stop or like go into more detail. Yeah, getting the thumbs up. Awesome. Okay, what else we got? So business tip number 2, make it easy for people to buy from you. And here is a way of thinking about this. This comes from Hugh Calver, who is a wonderful speaker out in BC, and he specializes largely in marketing and customer service. But all of us, I think, can benefit from his wisdom. And he has this pyramid concept that'll have a lot of, and this is a growing trend, by the way. And you'll probably notice if any of you follow some of the social media gurus like Gary Vaynerchuk, and if you've read any of his books, which if you haven't and you're a business owner, I would definitely read Jab, 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 Right Hook, because it's all about using social media to get out in front of people so that they know you. But anyway, the point is, give away so much stuff. It's amazing the more stuff you give away in terms of videos, in terms of resources, in terms of tips, in terms of ebooks, you know, a variety of ways in which you can give them. And when they say, wow, if I get this for free, what am I going to be able to get if I buy something from him or her? It's all hers on the line, so I can say her. So that's one of the things, is what do you offer for free that is still super high quality? And one of the things that shifted dramatically in the last couple of years is that people's free stuff is what people used to pay for even just a few years ago. So, I mean, please don't get caught up in terms of that being a limiting belief, because of course, you know, you can just up your game in other things too. But the point is, people begin to fall in love with what you can do for them, and how you truly do have some of the solutions to their problems or their issues, and therefore give them an opportunity to experience some of that for free right away. And for me, I have a weekly vlog. I have a videographer who comes over 5 times a year. She films basically 3 months worth of videos that go out every Monday. And that's free stuff. Caroline, my wonderful VA colleague who's on the line today, she transcribes it, or makes sure it's transcribed, put into MailChimp. It goes out every week. And so there's high quality video that goes out. And sometimes people I've heard use it in training, or they'll get ideas. And on the surface, it may seem, well, why do we need to bring in Sarah in to speak or do training when I could get something free every week? Well, it only helps me to stay in front of people who are my people, because they're the people on my list. And then I can share it on LinkedIn and Facebook and through all the other social media platforms for people who aren't on my list who may find that valuable. And then what happens is they then share it with their people. So that's something, you know, what do you have available that's free that you can put out there? And even if it's just one thing, just, you know, start with just one thing if you don't have anything just yet. The next, and we have a question. All right, Caroline, offer free. Can I unmute you, Caroline?
Yep.
Okay. I think I unmuted you.
No,
yeah.
At the beginning, I think it's important just to establish rapport with people. I offer them time at the beginning. And what that does is it establishes a trust level and some timelines with people, and just to ensure that you guys are going to work well together.
Right.
Not a good fit, it's not going to work, especially for the client. You've got to be able to understand your client.
Right. Yeah. And it's a great point. And Bridget, this may be getting at your question too, where you will do that with folks, is that you'll have those conversations, that free coaching conversations, see if we're a good fit, and maybe they don't buy. Your folks may have a longer decision-making buying cycle than people, so that they may come back to you yet. That would be one thing to monitor. The other piece is, and I've seen this done by other coaches, is people offer a discounted first session. So, that's the other thing, is jumping up to the next rung on this line, is that if something you're giving away for free and people aren't buying from you, but it's super valuable and you're thinking, why the heck are they not buying from me? Why don't you just make it so incredibly affordable for people to invest in that? So it's maybe normally your coaching rate is $250 an hour. Let's say it's a free first session is $97. Generally anything between the $50 to $100 range, most people don't even think twice about it. I shouldn't say all people, but your people know what your next rung on the ladder is. For somebody else who works with CEOs, the low cost to them might be $10,000. So everyone's going to have a bit of a different business model. But what's a low cost, particularly if you make it low touch? And what I mean by that is, it doesn't tie up your calendar, because you don't want to be giving a lot of all of this stuff away, and it basically gobbles up all of the time that you could be spending building your products, serving, paying clients, and so forth. So this is where having maybe a very short virtual program, having an ebook that's inexpensive, maybe, a lot of people can do podcasts for free. However, if you bundle a whole bunch of really valuable podcasts and your target market travels all the time, they may be willing to pay for that. So you can have it as a really affordable price point and just try it out. One of the things that I recommend to business owners is sell it first, then build it. Now, obviously, give yourself enough time. But 52 Weeks of Greatness, I had some folks calling me up and saying, I'd like to work with you. I know that, you're working for yourself now. I don't know if I can afford you, because when I was trying to build up my coaching hours, I had a really ridiculously low coaching rate. And because I needed the hours to be able to get accredited. And I said, you know what, let's find a way to make this work. Can I get back to you? And sure enough, I think I had 5 calls in 1 week, just out of the blue, past clients. And I thought, I can't serve them well if I charge my current rate, which I have to do to make my top line, right? Tip number 1 that we started with, of what we need to contribute to my family, that has to be priority number 1. This is why I'm running my own business. And I also want to make sure I add value to my clients. So I called them all back and I said, here's the thing. I think I could serve you well, given we worked together in the past, if I offer you virtual coaching. In other words, a whole program full of content that you use whatever is valuable to you, or do a little bit each week. We'll do 2 one-on-ones. And then you could also get onto a group coaching call once a month. Would that meet your needs? And they're like, yes. Multiple people said yes out of that. There were 2 out of the 5 who chose not to. But for 3 people, that's exactly what they wanted. Like, that's perfect. That's actually more time with you than I would have been able to get. And I'm still only paying the same amount of what I had said that I could budget. So it was a win for everybody. So that ended up allowing me to have that 3rd level up, that average cost. So it's not like it's nothing to work with me during the 52 Weeks of Greatness, but it's a lot less than my top level coaching option, the one-on-one time, which some people are maybe still willing to switch over and to do. But again, that's why you have multiple offerings, is so that you have various things to offer your clients, and so that your clients who want to keep working with you have choice about how they can work with you in the future, because what they need right now may be different than what they need down the line. So kind of how it goes for me is I have free vlogs and free things on my website. The next level up is I have some lower cost products, such as books and things that people could buy on my website. I have a membership portal right now full of recognition tools, where there's a really inexpensive annual license option per individual. The average cost touch is the virtual coaching program. It's also a corporate membership-based site of my membership recognition membership portal. And then the highest options are my keynote speaking, doing big consulting projects with me, or one-on-one coaching. So meaning you're, I'm providing service at every level, supports you to have a successful business and supports your clients to be served in whatever way that they can afford it. Does that make sense, folks? I hope it does. I tell you, it was like a game changer for me. Because here's the greatness biz trifecta. It allows you to scale your business, because at a certain point, if you only have things at the very top of the pyramid, those high touch things, there's only so many clients you can have. So if you have options that are more virtual, that are group and so forth, that allows you to scale it up, it allows you to still provide good service. I can serve people without them having to pay me a penny, and I love that. And then the accessibility, that anybody, no matter what their financial situation or their timeline is, I can serve them. How long did it take you to incorporate all of these levels of service? So great question, April. My business will have its 3-year anniversary in January, officially on paper in February. So I was still working as a senior leader in a hospital 3 years ago. If we were to reverse 3 years, I would be, working somewhere else. And so my first year was basically just providing service. It was mainly at that top of the pyramid. And I've been on a really big business, like free content development and lower cost offerings development over the last year. So almost exactly 1 calendar year. And I'm going to talk with you a little bit about asking for help, because that's also important. That whole spend money to make money thing. It's really important to think about who can help you, whether you pay for it or not, because that's part of how you can scale up those offerings pretty quickly too. And I think, April, you and I met because you bought a deck of my solution-focused coaching cards, right? And they were really valuable to you. And look, here we are working together still. So, it's little things that you can develop that will help you a lot in being able to serve your clients. Yup. All right. Okay, so don't discredit those little tiny things, because the people who really you can serve and they value that stuff, they can work with you in some of those lower touch point ways too. All right, know who you're serving. You start with an avatar in mind. So here is my quickest, simplest way of being able to figure out who your target market is. And this is not my stuff. This is all from an array of business and marketing people. Who is your best client? Who would you work with every day for the rest of your life if you could? And write all about them. Where do they spend their time? What are they like? What's their personality? Where did you meet them? Just write every detail you possibly can. That is your ideal avatar. And of course, they have to be somebody who pays, that they're consistent, they're reliable, they recommend you to other people, so they are your raving fan. That's how you get down very quickly on paper who your target market is. And then ask yourself, am I getting out in front of those people? So bridge your question around, and talking about, how do I make sure that I get out in front of the right people? Well, where do those people who love you already, where do they hang out? Who do they hang out with? And that's the thing. So, this is part of how I decide if I'm going to take a speaking engagement or not. I turn down full paid speaking engagements because it's not my avatar, and I have to get on an airplane and leave my family at, exactly the worst time to leave them because my avatar is not there. So in other words, it's just going to make money for that one time, coming back, and there's probably going to be no more business from it. Whereas I've been able to work with clients that are like, my avatar is full in that room, and I've been willing to work with them to adjust my speaking fee in lieu of buying some products, and shift it and negotiate around, because I want to be in front of that audience. I know exactly that they are the perfect people that I can serve and that I can help. So knowing that, how can you extend one opportunity? How that first slide around having a plan where I have 6 different revenue streams. How can you get in front of the right people to maximize the opportunity that you can serve people in a variety of ways is key. So, and then when you're there, you solve their biggest problems. So that's the other thing that I would say with your avatar is, what are the things that keep them up at night? What are the things that if you could solve this for them, or what do you solve for them? And if you don't know the answer to that question, go back and ask them. Because they'll love to tell you why you have been so awesome and you've been such a great help to them. And your customers are going to tell you things, right? They'll just say things casually in conversation like, oh, I'm too busy to figure out how to implement this. Well, maybe you can figure out a way to fill it. That's how we came up with the idea of writing this workbook. So we had a book that we wrote, which took a a long time, let me tell you. So we wrote a book, and then people kept saying, well, but I don't have the time to figure out how to implement the great stuff that's in your book. I mean, I totally believe in it, and I think it's great. So we wrote a workbook super fast, my co-author and I, of work exercises, because we love to do that, and we were teaching it anyway. So, and some people may be worried, like, well, why would you write a book? Because then they don't have to hire you to train them. Take a guess how much worry I spend that people don't need me to train them. If they're that in action, that's awesome. That's so good that they don't need me. Most of the time, people want the original creator of that, and then they want to take it from there. In fact, it's been so popular, I've sold more workbooks than I have book books. And now we put all of those tools plus another equivalent of 2 additional workbooks into this membership-based portal because people are asking for that. So, listen to what your clients are saying are their biggest issues. Start a little log for yourself, because you probably have a product or a service that you can offer to solve that. And remember, ultimately, that's what this is about. It's service. It's not sales, it's service. So yes, people are paying you. And so technically, you might be having exploratory conversations with people that are sales calls. But if you're trying to serve them, it's how can you serve them, but you also serve yourself. So if you're finding you're doing a lot of service and you're not getting paid, how can I find a different way to serve people so I'm not spending all of my time or giving away the farm, but I'm still able to serve them. Number 4, I talked about this already, is be an expert. So my brand, Frog, Forever Recognize Others' Greatness, it's trademarked in the US and Canada. Unless people are part of my membership-based site, they're not able to use that brand. But ultimately, it's not so much about Frog, because I'll tell you, when the firefighters up north got the Frog package from one of my clients who's working with a whole bunch of different groups, they weren't like super pumped about the Frog. They're just saying, it's not all about the Frog. What it is about is being a recognition expert. And so instead, what oftentimes, that's how people will describe it. They won't describe me as the Frog lady. They'll describe me, which I don't know if that's worse or better than a bag lady, but anyway, they'll describe me as a recognition expert. And that's ultimately what I want people to say about what I do. So it becomes an extension of you. I carry around little squishy frogs in my purse, and we hand them out to people that we want to recognize. When we do a thank you card to people, there's the Frog emblem. My actual thank you cards are branded with that. It's on all of the products, on my clients. Some of the clients that I have, they've started to use Frog. It's on the coaching cards. It's just becomes part of what I do professionally and personally. And so my question to you is, how is your brand already an extension of you, and how can you bring it further into your world? And brainstorm with somebody. Brainstorm with me if you want, if you want to figure out how to do that even more. I was so shocked so my business year ends September 30th, and I'm just opening the kimono to all of you. So I'm just sharing everything with you. And you'll tell me later if it's an overshare. So just at the end, looking with my bookkeeper, do you know, we sold $8,000 in products last year, of squishy frogs and thank you cards, and not books. Like there was another $8,000 in books, but this is just products. And really, when you think about it, like, really, is there that much business in thank you cards and squishy frogs? And it's not like I'm filling orders every day. However, it's because you're solving a problem for people. People are busy. They don't have time to source it, get things printed. And, if they like it and it's catchy and they want to just jump on it right away. Plus, when you're at events or you're serving people in other ways, they want to implement, they want to be able to buy from you right away. So it helps you in your business model, but it also helps your clients to do what you're telling them to do anyway, what you're suggesting that they do anyway. And so if you have a formula, so, you're a coach and you have the formula for dealing with grief, or the formula for elevating your potential when you're in a job transition, create a workbook, or create mindfulness cards, create something that you would normally do with a client. You might walk them through in a coaching conversation, or multiple, turn it into a product and see where it goes. It costs very little to have things printed now. And I'm lucky I have a father who's a graphic designer, and my mom's an artist, so she can do a lot of illustration. You probably have people in your life who can help you to do stuff like that too. Because when you have scale and when you have a brand and you offer value, that's where you generate revenue. So April, your question earlier about how long did it take me to build this, where I went from not making any money in my first 7 months to making money. The business made what I made in my last job. So it wasn't paying me what I was making. And to that next year of where I made what I made in my last job, and still left lots of money in the business. That was when I got this formula right. It didn't come from anybody. I just made it up. But when you scale up your business and you have a consistent brand, so people know who you are, what you do, how to refer you, you offer huge value and you're constantly putting out value, that's when you have an opportunity to make that revenue. Last of 5 tips is to ask for help. And I cannot tell you how much this is important. So as I was about to go into creating 52, as you can imagine, 52 weeks of greatness, that means there's why would I promise 52? Because I have now created 52 weeks of content. So I thought, well, what are people needing? What's on my avatar's bucket list? Well, it turns out some people talk about climbing Mount Everest. So I called my friend Alan, who's another speaker, and I said, can I interview for 5 minutes about the importance of climbing Mount Everest, what you learned? He's like, sure. Look at his big smile. What inspires my avatar is getting over adversity. Here's Alvin Law, an amazing Canadian, thalidomide baby, healthy as he's like this jazz musician, award-winning speaker, totally inspirational. What accomplishments can my avatar relate to? Being able to set world records. And so here's Vince Presenti. All these people said yes. All I did was say, could I interview you over the computer for 5 minutes? Sure, let's do it. And they didn't ask for any money. They just said, sure. And what inspires people most? Well, building a business. So Tanya, who's the head of Steep Tea, which if you ever watched Dragon's Den, she was on it about 5 years ago, built a business from nothing to $20 million in 4 years. Just saying. And she's like, sure, yeah, I'll give you a bit of my time. So all of these things, if you don't ask, you don't get. And so ask people who can help you, who can serve you. So who and what is supporting your success? And I'll tell you, I have a lot of people who support mine now, and I do not begrudge a single penny I spend on any of these things. I have somebody who 1 day a week does cleaning and organizing for me. I have a travel agent who does all my booking. I pay a premium on that. It doesn't matter because I'm telling you, I'm actually going to get where I need to go by doing that. Caroline also does business travel for me. So I have personal business travel that I may have done. I also, Caroline, who's super organized, she gets me where I need to go. Caroline's my virtual assistant. You'll notice she's the biggest, boldest letters because she's the one I rely on every single day, and it's my absolute rock. A bookkeeper, a tax accountant. I didn't hire a lawyer to get incorporated. I hired a tax accountant. I've hired a business coach multiple times over, a speaking agent worth every penny when she gets me engagements. And then on the development, the creative side, and I've hired editors for every one of my books. I've never hired a ghostwriter, which some people do, but editor, absolutely worth every penny. And again, Caroline does all my editing of my vlogs. Illustrator, my mom does that, so I pay her in hugs and being a good human being and dessert. Anywho, videographer, photographer, a wonderful local woman, sourced a local person who is like an amazing rock star. She brings all the equipment. I don't have to do a thing other than show up, know what I'm going to talk about, and change my outfits for a couple of times. I'll have to have somebody who does outfits on this list soon because I'm really sick of looking at my own jackets. Yeah, Caroline, you're going to do that too? Awesome. Fabulous. Web designer, worth every penny because I've had people hire me just by going to my speaker videos, which I had somebody else do, and my website. It's amazing because that's just what's expected now. And a speaking coach. And every time I create a new keynote, I hire a new speaking coach, somebody different, and it's worth every penny. So there's been lots of money that's gone out the door, and every one of them the investment has come back. Closet curator. I love it. Perfect. Done. You're in, girl. This is so good. And there may be other people that you can think of that you would want on your team. And I'll tell you, I also have a virtual team as well. So I use Zoom for all of my webinars. This is through Zoom. So I have a monthly membership. MailChimp, it's free to up to 2,000 subscribers. Calendly, I pay about $100 a year US to have all of my calendar bookings. People do that themselves. Saves a lot of time and money by not having to do those calendar scheduling. Canva is a totally free, as long as you use their free templates, tool for creating great quotes and inspirational messages. Posters, all the posters on my virtual site are all created for free using Canva. Rizuku is the system I use for my virtual program, $1,000 a year US for an entire year, unlimited number of users. So as long for me in my virtual program, even when I give people half price, I have one person register and it pays everybody else. It's gravy. eSpeakers is where I have a profile for my speaking site, and I have the premium membership for that. And then Stock Unlimited, I bought a membership, a lifetime membership, to have unlimited access to all their photography. So every image I own that is on any of my my presentations. If you want to have a real hand experience, April, Caroline, there's a few folks who are already in my virtual program. Don't hesitate to let me know if you're interested in that. Thrilled to have you both as a learning as well as from a development standpoint, and you get free coaching, group coaching, as well as one-on-one coaching time with me. And anyone who's on the call, if you're interested, of course, it's half price. This is not to have a sales pitch. This is if it would be in service to you, then let me know. And of course, I'll just do a plug. If you want to see those vlogs, you're most welcome to. They're free. You could just go to my website, greatnessmagnified.com, sign yourself up. You can take yourself off if you're not interested anymore, and you're welcome to have them every week. And that you can see as a primary free thing that I offer. Amazing value. Look at my biz now because of it. Oh yeah. Okay. So Caroline, can we unmute you and you tell your story? Where were you this time last year, Caroline?
Oh my goodness. I was working unhappily for an organization, wasn't appreciated, was for 15 years or so, and I just thought I have to make a change. So I did a lot of what you had suggested in the outline here.
Right, like getting
rid of that stress.
Right.
Yeah. Just decided that I was going to start something and see what happened while I was still working. I was doing about 80 hours a week as I built my business, and within 6 months, full time. So it was amazing, and that's largely very much a part of being part of 52 Weeks of Greatness. It really got me on track. Amazing program.
You made it happen, Caroline. So thank you. Thank you for saying that, and you totally made it happen. And now you're too busy. You have more than a full-time business, right?
Now I'm too busy. Now I'm streamlining. I'm in a position to streamline my business. Who would have thought that after a year?
Totally love it. Not surprised at all. And I'm going to stop the